What's going on, everybody? You get the Raging Rob here. Well, the Michigan Senate, or the legislators in Michigan, are working to pass a law that would make cyberbullying a crime in the state of Michigan. Okay, I guess I can agree on that. I'm against cyberbullying. I am against bullying. I got bullied a little bit in school until I decided I was going to whip that bully's ass. But that's the problem we have nowadays. Kids ain't got the balls to whip a bully's ass. And, if I'm going to teach my kid to whip some ass if they have a problem in school. That's what my parents taught me. Anyway. And I didn't turn out to be violent. But anyway, enough about that. We're talking about cyberbullying here. I'm against cyberbullying. There's many forms of cyberbullying. I think they're trying to attack this swatting problem. Swatting has been around for quite a while now. I thought swatting was just going to be a fad. It was going to last for 5 years. But it's still around. People are still doing that stupid shit. And that's why I think this thing probably got started. It's Michigan. And when you think of Michigan, what do you think? You think of Dearborn. So I think this thing got started because the Muslims. Now, I don't know for sure, but it passed this bill, which it didn't go in exact detail to describe what cyberbullying was, but it did pass through the legislature at 94-17 or some shit like that. I don't know. It passed in great numbers. So now it's got to go to the Senate. It's got to pass there. And then this piece of shit governor has got to sign off on it. I don't like this governor. I don't like him. I do not like Rick Snyder. I used to. I supported his right to work because I don't believe I don't believe that you should have to be forced into the union. I think it should be a choice. I mean, I'm not against the unions. I mean, you have a right to form your own union, but if you shouldn't be forced into it. So I supported his right to work, and he's done a couple good things. But he's not taking care of Flint, and he did something that really pissed me off. If you remember, there's a couple of Patriot friends of mine. About a year ago, they walked inside of a Dearborn police station armed to the teeth. I'm not saying that's a good idea, but it's completely illegal and constitutional what they did. This piece of shit governor he deliberately did this. He appointed, deliberately, a Muslim anti-gun judge for this case and got him convicted on bogus fucking charges. I'm hoping that these two patriots, they gave up their freedom to express the Second Amendment. And I support them for doing that. The Dearborn Police Department is corrupted. They're corrupted. I've had my run-ins. I'm not going to go in details. But anyway, they're trying to pass this anti-cyberbullying law. But they didn't go into details of what exactly they're going to define as cyberbullying and what not. So I looked into it, and they're going as far as maybe charging you with a felony if they find you in, violating the anti-cyberbullying law. So I'm just trying to understand this a little bit. I believe in the freedom of speech. The Supreme Court ruled that hate speech is protected by the First Amendment. That includes slurs. That includes being a bigot, being a racist, racial slurs. That's all freedom of speech. And it is 100% legal. However, the freedom of speech does not make terrorist threats okay, threats against the president, threats of violence, telling somebody to commit suicide is not a threat. That's freedom of speech. Now, if you say you're going to do something to that person, that's a threat. There's a teacher in Warren, Michigan. Not that I supported what he did. Absolutely, he needs to be dealt with. You don't. When you're a teacher, you should be professional. And this wasn't very professional of him. He said something to the substitute teacher. If these kids don't quiet down, I got a gun in my closet or something like that. Yeah, he needs to be dealt with. That wasn't a threat because he didn't actually say he was going to do anything violent. But something like that could be a possible threat. He needs to be dealt with. And I mean, it's not really a threat because he didn't actually go into detail what he's going to do, but I'm saying something like that needs to be dealt with. Especially if you mention anything on social media with the word gun and school in it in the same sentence, you're bound to have your video flagged or somebody's going to come after your post. You're bound to have the FBI knocking your door nowadays. It's just that's the age we live in. So I'm not exactly sure why they're trying to pass this bill, but I'm not 100% for it unless they go in the bill and describe what exactly is cyberbullying. We live in an age where, George Carlin, one of my favorite comedians, back in the 70s and 80s, he said a lot of racial slurs on stage, and he said a lot of shit. Now, if I made YouTube videos back then in those days, I would be considered a comedian. But I'm doing this in 2018. These days, well, I'm considered a bigot, a racist, a homophobe, a transphobe. You didn't have transgender back then. It didn't exist. If it did, it was like 1 in a million. And they were in a mental institution like that. Now it's like, Jesus, every time I turn around, there's another transgender behind me looking at my damn ass. But that's what I'm getting at. There's a difference between cyberbullying and freedom of speech. Obviously, if you stalk somebody on the internet over and over and over and slander them and contact their family and harass their family, that's cyberbullying. There's no doubt about that. But if you're just simply talking shit, if it's just two bozos going at it with each other, are we going to really start to prosecute that shit? Are we really going to cyberbully that shit? And think about the law for a second. Michigan's passing this. Well, it's in the Senate. It's got to pass the Senate. The governor's got to sign off. I wouldn't be surprised if that goofball of a fucking governor would sign off on this bill. But it's Michigan. Okay, it's called the World Wide Web for a reason. It's worldwide. You can't control the internet, just like you can't control Bitcoin. That's why the government's that's why the global elite is now saying that Bitcoin has child pornography in it, in the blockchain. No, it doesn't. They're just saying that to try to make an excuse to shut it down because they can't control it. Because the global elite, they want to control all the money worldwide. They can't control Bitcoin. They can't control it. So they're making up some dumbass excuse, saying there's child pornography in the blockchain, to try to shut it down. They have an excuse to shut it down because they can't control it. They did the same thing with marijuana. They can't control it. They can't tax the fucking thing. They can't control it. And that's the only reason it's illegal. In certain states. Now it's legal. But anyway, so I'm trying to understand this. So if it passes in Michigan anyway, that means you have to be in the state of Michigan when you type up the cyberbullying, or does the receiver of the cyberbullying have to be in Michigan? That's what I'm trying to understand. I'm in Utah right now. Okay, the home of, we got a lot of Mormons here. I got nothing against Mormons. They're good people. You had that one pedophile slob, Jeff, whatever the hell. He had like 4 underage wives. He's in prison for 99 years or whatever. And you got that Elizabeth Short, the one that was kidnapped at 14 and, God, 9 months of agonizing pain. And she got away. And Elizabeth Short, I hope to God she's carrying concealed now. But that's where I'm at. I'm in Utah. I mean, Elizabeth Short, if she's not carrying concealed now, that would not be very smart of her. You know? I mean, I hope to God Elizabeth Short is carrying concealed now with the shit that she went through. But anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm in Utah. Anyway, crazy. Yeah, I'm in Utah. I love this. Is one of my favorite states. A lot of good people here. It's a conservative state too. Mitt Romney's trying to run for Senate in this state. But anyway, this Michigan cyberbullying law, it's bullshit. I mean, I think this is an attack on our First Amendment freedom of speech. The global elite, they're using these kids in Parkland to attack our Second Amendment. They're using anything they can. Well, if it's against gays, if it's against Muslims, if it gets the trannies, it's hate speech. And that's not protected by the First Amendment. Actually, the Supreme Court ruled it. It is protected by the First Amendment, asshole. So get that straight. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying it's protected by the First Amendment. Now, if I threaten violence, that's not protected by the First Amendment. So you need to get your shit straight. What's protected by the First Amendment and what's not. Hate speech is protected by the First Amendment. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying it's protected by the First Amendment. And if that's what they're attacking in Michigan, then they are violating, that is a direct violation of the First Amendment. Or are they going to go after actual cyberbullying? You know, the swatters, the terrorist threats, the stalkers. You know, is that what they're going to go after? I hope so. I don't want to lose my right. I might have to put this video on another, I don't know. I might have to put it on somewhere else. I want to say what I want to say on fucking social media without being censored. If I want to say faggot on social media, I want to have that right. If I want to say that Allah is a pedophile or Satan and Muhammad is a pedophile and Islam is a barbaric religion, I want to have that right. That's called freedom of speech. Did you hear about what happened yesterday? There was Air Force Base. There was a car that went through the gate, had propane tanks strapped to it, and it blew up. I guess, thank God nobody died except the driver. I guess it was a Muslim jihadist terrorist. They didn't come out and say that. They're not going to come out and say that because that would be going against Islam. Is Michigan trying to become? Is Michigan trying to compete with the UK here? The United Kingdom? They're prosecuting people in the United Kingdom for Facebook shit. You believe that? Yeah. Because it's against Islam. Fuck Islam. Fuck Muhammad and fuck that pedophile. How about that? There's your First Amendment. Okay? And I'm going to say it if I want to. Fuck you. Governor Snyder. I know what's behind that cyberbullying law. Fuck your law. How about that? Fuck your cyberbullying law. I know what you're trying to do. I know what he's trying to do. We ain't stupid. We know what they're doing. They like to sugarcoat it. Well, it's really attacking this when it's really attacking something else. Yeah. They like to sugarcoat shit. That's what they like to do. That's what the global elite like to do. They like to sugarcoat shit. I'm sorry. I call it like it is.